Hey guys, in this video I'm going to show you how to create a simple REST API using Golang and Max. Max is a router that will allow us to handle the HTTP requests that we are going to receive in our API. And if you want predictable pricing and a reliable infrastructure to deploy your applications, check out Linode. There is a link in the description below. Remember to share, like, and subscribe to the channel, and let's get started. Okay, the first step is going to be installing Golang. You can go to golang.org, click here on the download Go button, and here you have the different downloads for each operating system, Windows, Mac OS, Linux, or you can install Golang from the source. Okay, I'm not going to cover how to do each installation. For Linux, I have Linux on my computer and it's super easy. So you download this file and here you have the instructions. You need to execute this command and you need to extract this file on this folder, and then you need to modify the profile of your local environment and append this directory or this path to the path of the environment. And as part of the API, the only external library that we're going to use is Gorilla Max. Gorilla is a web toolkit that provides multiple packages. One of them is Max, and that's the one that we're going to use. Max is our URL router and dispatcher. We're going to see how it works, but basically we're going to be able to map the paths and the HTTP methods to a function that we're going to implement. Okay, let's go to the IDE. And the first step here is going to be creating a file that is going to be the entry point of our application. I'm going to call it server.go. And here we need to do two things. We are going to declare the package main and the main function. We say func main. And doing this, we are telling the Golang compiler that this should compile as an executable file. So if we want to create a shared library, we should not have neither a main package nor a main function. And within the main function, I'm going to create a new instance of a Max router, so we can use that router to map the URLs and the HTTP methods to the functions that we're going to create. But first, I need to import this external library, so let's do that. This is Golang REST API, and here we have our server.go file, and here I'm going to install this Max dependency or this Max library, and I need to execute go get and the URL where this dependency or this library is located. In this case is github.com/gorilla or gorilla and Max. Okay, now we have this dependency installed. Okay, let's go back. First, we need to import this Max library. So I'm going to enter import. And I'm going to import that library, that is github.com gorilla Max. And now I'm going to create the router. So I can create the variable router, and I'm going to assign a new router, and I need to use max.new router. That's the method that I need to use to create a new instance of a router. I can use var and assign this way, or I can use colon equals. I can use that. Now I'm going to create a simple handler using Max just to quickly check that our server is up and running. So I'm going to use router that handle func. And here I need to pass two parameters. The path, in this case, I'm going to use the root path or slash. And I'm going to add an inline function. It's going to be func. And this function is going to receive the request and the response. So actually, this is the response first. That is going to be HTTP that response writer. Yeah, first I need to import that package. That is going to be the net slash HTTP package. And we're going to see now that we have IntelliSense. Yeah. Okay, the response and the request. In this case, it's going to be HTTP that request. Okay, I'm going to make this shorter, so it's going to be easier to read. And here I'm going to add the body of this function. And here I'm going to print something. In order to be able to print, I need to use the FMT library. So I'm going to import that. FMT. And I'm going to use the print function. FMT.println. And I'm going to pass the response. And I'm going to pass the string that I want to be shown as part of the response. Let's say something like up and running. This is just to quickly check that the router is up and running. And the next thing that we need to do, we need to actually listen on some port. So I'm going to create a constant, const port. It's going to be a string. And it's going to be the port 8000. And here I'm going to start listening on that port. So I need to use HTTP that listen and serve. And I need to pass the port and the router that is going to handle all the HTTP requests. And I'm going to add another library that is the log library. And I'm going to use a couple of methods. Log that print, server listening on port, and I'm going to pass the port. And here I'm going to add a log. I'm going to add log.file, and I'm going to pass this execution. So the output of this is going to be part of the log. I'm going to here I can build this. Let's see, yeah. And I'm going to run this executable. And now we have the server listening on port 8000. Okay, there was an error here. Is fprint ln, this one. And this is going to allow us to print to the response writer. The other one was running on the server. This one, the print, this one, the println. This shows the message on the server. And the fprintln is going to write the response to the client, and we're going to see the message on the response. I'm going to compile this. And I'm going to run the binary. Now we have our server up and running on port 8000. And I'm going to execute a request. And now we get the message up and running. Okay, now I'm going to create a new file. Actually, I'm going to create a couple of functions, and I'm going to create a structure that is going to be just a post structure that is going to include an identifier, a title, and a text. So let's do that. To create a new file, this is going to be route.go. And the package is going to be the same. So I'm going to be working on within the same package. So I'm going to be able to access these functions without importing anything. Let's create the post structure first. So it's going to be type post struct, and here I'm going to add all the fields. I'm going to add an identifier that's going to be an int, a title that is going to be a string, and a text that is going to be a string as well. And this structure is going to represent the requests and the response. I'm going to return these posts using a JSON format, and I'm going to create new posts receiving a JSON as part of the payload. In order to be able to encode and decode this struct in JSON format, to JSON format, and from the JSON format, I need to add some types here. And first I need to import the encoding library for JSON. So I'm going to add that import here. And the library is encoding /JSON. Here we have different formats: ASCII, base32, base64, binary, CSV. We're going to use JSON in this case. And here we need to add the JSON mapping. We need to use backticks here. And the format is JSON, and the field name. In this case, it's going to be ID. And the same for the rest of the fields. This one is going to be title, and this one is going to be text. Okay, now I'm going to create a variable to use a slice. And a slice is actually a dynamic array. Typically, an array, you need to define the length when you declare the array. But a slice is a dynamic array where you don't declare the length when you create the variable that represents that collection. So we're going to create a var. And here we're going to create a post variable that is going to be an array of that structure that we created. An array of posts. Okay, and now I'm going to create an init function. This init function is going to run when the application starts. So func init, I need to name it init specifically. So that's the convention. Okay, and here I'm going to assign a posts array, and I'm going to add just one element. So we can test a get operation with some data already on this array. So it's going to be a post. And now I'm going to assign all the fields of that structure. ID is going to be 1. The title is going to be title 1. And the text is going to be text 1. Okay, now I'm going to create a new function that is going to be the function that is going to handle the get HTTP method to get the posts. It's going to actually return this variable that we defined here, this array of posts. Okay, func get posts. And this is going to receive the request and the response. So I need to import another library here that is actually this one, net/http. And I'm going to grab the arguments from here. And I'm going to pass those arguments here to this function. And this function is going to return a JSON. So I need to specify the content type on the header. So I can set a specific header that is going to be the content type. And it's going to be application/JSON. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to marshal or encode this array into the JSON format. So I need to use the marshal method from the JSON library, JSON.marshal, and I'm going to pass the array that is posts. And here is going to return either an error or the result. So I can do something like this. Result error. If I get an error, sorry, I need to use the summary server board, so I'm going to use error. So if I get an error, I can check that by doing if error is not nil. So if I get an error, I'm going to return some error message. So response that right header. Here I'm going to specify the HTTP code. That's going to be the 500 because it's a server error. Status internal server error is one. If we go there, we can see that is the 500 HTTP code. Okay, let's go back. And I'm going to also write some message. It's going to be response that write. And here I need to pass a byte array, and I need to pass using backticks the message. That in this case is going to be a JSON with two attributes. Let's use error, and the message that is going to be error marshalling the posts array, for example. And we need to return to avoid this function to keep executing any code. So if we don't get any error, we can continue, and we are going to return a 200 HTTP response. So I'm going to copy this, and I'm going to replace the 500 by 200. That is the status OK. It's actually status. Okay. If we check this value, we're going to see that it is the 200 HTTP code. Okay, let's go back. And the last thing that we're going to do on this method is we're going to write the actual result that is going to be the array in JSON format. Okay, I'm going to pass the result as the argument so we can return that on the response. We need to go to the server, and we need to add the handler function. So it's going to be posts, and this is going to be get posts. And we also need to associate the method to this handler. So we need to assign methods, and we are going to assign here the get method. Okay, I'm going to stop the server. I'm going to clear this, and I'm going to build this again. Okay, and I'm going to run the server again. And now if we go back, let's check that it is up and running. Yes, and now if I click here, I should receive one element, that is the post that we created, that we actually hard-coded here on the route file, here on line 19. The next function that I'm going to create here is going to be a function to create a new post. So I'm going to call it func add post. And here I'm going to also receive the HTTP response and the HTTP request. So I'm going to copy these arguments. And here what I'm going to do is I'm going to parse the request body, and I'm going to unmarshal the JSON that I received from the request, and I'm going to create a post object, and I'm going to add that post to this posts array. So let's do that. So I'm going to create a variable var post that is going to have the type of the struct that we created, that is going to be the post structure. And here I'm going to use JSON that new decoder, and I'm going to pass the input that is going to be the body of the request. And what I'm going to do with that body or the payload that I receive, that is actually a JSON, I'm going to decode that JSON into the post variable. And here we need to pass a reference to the post, and we need to use the ampersand here. So pass that, and in case of failure, this is going to return an error. So I'm going to assign that here, and I'm going to do something similar to handle that error here. The only thing that is going to change is the message, that in this case is going to be error on marshalling the request. And what I'm going to do with that post is I'm going to assign an identifier, and I'm going to give it really simple. I'm going to increment the length of this array. I need to use the len function for that, and I'm going to increase that length in 1, and that's going to be the identifier, the length of the array plus 1. And now I'm going to append this new post to the array. So I'm going to use the append function that is going to receive the array and the new post. Okay, and now I'm going to return a 200 HTTP code, and I'm going to return the post. So I need to marshal the post again. So I need something similar to this. And now I'm going to write that response. So response that write, and I'm going to pass the result. Okay. I need to add the mapping here. That is going to be add post, and the method in this case is going to be post. Okay, and I'm going to run the server again. Let's go back, and I'm going to execute this post HTTP request. Okay, and we get this response. We are not getting the format as JSON because I forgot to add the header, the content type header. I need to add that, so I'm going to add that here. Okay, I'm going to stop the server again. I'm going to clear this. I'm going to build it again, and I'm going to start the server again. Okay, let's go back, and I'm going to send this request again, and now we get the JSON format with the new identifier. And if we now execute the get operation in the API, we're gonna get two elements, the title1 and text1 post and the post with ID 2. So let's run this, and yes, we get the first post that we had coded in the application and the new one that we just created. So let's create a new one. Let's say title 3 and text 3. Let's run this request, and now we should get the 3 posts, 1, 2, and 3. Okay guys, this is all I have for today. Remember to share, like, and subscribe to the channel, and I see you guys in the next video. Take care. Bye.